What's going on, guys? This Saiyan17 here, and I'm back with another versus battle. The last one I did was Kirby versus Majin Buu, so if you are interested in watching that, you can find it on my channel. But moving on to the topic of this video, as you can see from the title, we're going to be discussing a battle between my second favorite character from the Dragon Ball series, Piccolo, versus John Jones, aka the Martian Manhunter, from DC Comics. Now, for those of you who are new here and don't know how I do my versus battles, let me explain. It's very simple. I basically compare both characters using these four categories: strength, speed, skill/techniques, and durability. But before we jump into that, let me give you a quick backstory on the two characters for the people who are completely unfamiliar with them. Let's start with the Martian Manhunter first. Martian Manhunter actually made his debut back in November of 1955 in a backup story called The Strange Experiment of Dr. Erdell in Detective Comics number 225. Now, Martian Manhunter's origin story is actually quite simple. John Jones is a manhunter, a keeper of peace on his home planet Mars. In the comic book, we're introduced to a world-famous scientist whose name I mentioned previously, Dr. Saul Erdell, and he's shown talking about this machine which he believes will let him explore the universe and teleport objects to his lab from outer space and other worlds. The doctor is actually doing these experiments in secret without anybody knowing. Now, when he presses the button on this machine, it ends up teleporting something else to his lab. A 7-foot-tall, green-skinned Martian from the planet Mars appears right in front of the doctor. After finding out that the Martian is actually friendly, the doctor apologizes for teleporting him away from his world and promises to return him back safely. However, when the Martian shapeshifts into his human form, it gives the doctor such a big shock that his heart basically gives out on him, leaving the Martian stranded on Earth. Since the Martian has no way to get home, he basically spends his life on Earth helping people like he did back on his home planet Mars. Martian Manhunter was originally supposed to be a detective-style story with a superpower twist, but as the years went on, the character acquired more of the traditional superhero traits and eventually even became a member of the Justice League of America. The Martian Manhunter does have a long backstory, but since this is a versus battle, we're going to keep it short. Let's move on to Piccolo. After being punched straight through the chest in the original Dragon Ball series by Goku, Demon King Piccolo's final action was to spit out one last egg which contained his child/reincarnation. This child was known as Piccolo Jr., and he was born for the sole purpose of avenging his father's death. Much like Martian Manhunter, Piccolo belongs to another race as well, called the Namekians. These green beings are from planet Namek, and they are one of the most important races in the entire series since they are the creators of the Dragon Balls. Piccolo spent his early years training very hard to kill Goku at the World Tournament and to fulfill King Piccolo's dream of taking over the world. When the time came, Goku defeated Piccolo, and Piccolo vowed to continue his quest of training and to eventually kill Goku. Fast forward to Dragon Ball Z, when Goku's evil brother Raditz came to Earth, Piccolo was forced to form an alliance with Goku to win the fight. After Goku dies in battle, Piccolo takes it upon himself to train Goku's son Gohan. Gohan's love and friendship shows Piccolo that there is more to life than just being evil, and it truly changes Piccolo in a way no one had before. During the battle with the evil Saiyan Nappa, Piccolo sacrifices his life to save Gohan and even says that Gohan was the first person that didn't see him as a monster, and that he was actually proud to call him a friend. As the series goes on, Piccolo ends up becoming a permanent member of the Z-Fighters, and after fusing with Kami during the Android Saga, all the evil in his heart disappears. Now, don't get me wrong, Piccolo still prefers to be left alone and barely has anything to say if it doesn't involve fighting. But he gains this sort of calm personality and becomes more of a mentor figure by the end of the series, rather than the ruthless and cocky warrior he started out as. With that being said, I know people are going to be wondering, during what time period in the series am I going to be using Piccolo? I'm going to be using Piccolo at the end of the Buu saga, since that's when he's had the most experience and also all of his techniques. So with that being said, guys, let's talk about strength, and we'll begin with Piccolo. Piccolo is one of the most powerful non-Saiyan characters in the entire Dragon Ball franchise. Seeing how King Piccolo could destroy entire cities without much effort, it's no surprise to see why Piccolo was just as strong as a child. Upon birth, Piccolo had access to all of King Piccolo's powers and memories, meaning that by the time he grew up, he could physically do everything King Piccolo could, plus more. Now here comes the hard part for me. It is kinda difficult for me to say exactly how strong Piccolo is at the end of Dragon Ball Z. Piccolo after the Cell Saga doesn't really do a whole lot when it comes to showing his feats, but I am willing to say that Piccolo at the end of Dragon Ball Z is at least strong as Perfect Cell. The reason I say that is because during the Cell Saga, Piccolo was able to keep up with and even hurt the Cell Juniors for a while alongside Trunks and Vegeta, and those guys were Super Saiyans. And in the Daizenshu 7, it did say that Cell Juniors had roughly the same power as a suppressed Perfect Cell. So if Piccolo was this strong during the Cell Saga, why wouldn't he be stronger than Cell during the Buu Saga, which is 7 years later? In the manga, Gohan asked Piccolo why he never left with the other Namekians, and Piccolo says that he doesn't want a peaceful, boring life. So seeing how Piccolo is a character that is constantly training even at times of peace, it is quite obvious that training for 7 years would put him at a much higher level. Also, in my opinion, Piccolo is usually the intelligent character when it comes to battle, compared to the other Z fighters. He doesn't really pick fights that he knows he cannot win unless he absolutely has to fight for his friends. For example, on Namek, the reason Piccolo came to fight Frieza was because he knew he would win. Gohan himself said that Piccolo can usually tell his enemy's strength, so he's got to have some reason to think he can really win. And he was right, Piccolo was winning that fight. He landed more shots on Frieza than anybody could at the time, and Frieza had more than enough power to destroy the entire planet. Another example of this could be Piccolo's fight with Dr. Shiro, where Piccolo tells Vegeta not to interfere as he is completely confident he can crush Dr. Shiro, and that's exactly what ends up happening. Piccolo destroys him without breaking a sweat, and even Krillin starts to question how Piccolo became that strong, even though he doesn't have the ability of becoming a Super Saiyan. I'm willing to go as far as to say that Piccolo, in my opinion, is even stronger than Deborah. Now, Deborah did beat Piccolo, but that little exchange they had didn't prove anything when it comes to actual strength and power. The reason Piccolo got beat was because Deborah spit on him and turned him into stone. Piccolo had no idea what that attack was or what it would do to him. Again, going back to what I said earlier, Piccolo rarely attacks his enemies head-on like that, so I believe that Piccolo knew he would have been able to put up a fight, but unfortunately, he was caught by a surprise attack and got turned to stone. Also, seeing as how Goku himself stated that Deborah in terms of power is the same as Cell, it once again goes to show that it is very possible for Piccolo to be stronger since that type of power was a threat to them 7 years ago, and Piccolo for sure has improved a lot in those 7 years. Over the years, Piccolo has fought many great battles and shown his raw power against characters like Raditz, Nappa, Frieza, Dr. Shiro, Android 17, the Cell Juniors, Cell, and even Babidi. Let's move on to the Martian Manhunter now. Martian Manhunter is one of the strongest heroes in the DC universe. It's hard to pinpoint just exactly how strong he is, but most writers have shown him to be just below or equal to Superman's level. He can easily lift over 100,000 tons without much effort. He's shown throwing Hal Jordan across Gotham City, landing straight blows to Doomsday's face, smashing white Martians into a wall, knocking out Billy Batson aka Captain Marvel with one single blow, beating characters like Triumph who have been shown to be as strong as Superman. Speaking of Superman, Martian Manhunter has fought him many times and he's managed to put him in a headlock and punch him right in the face on many different occasions. Martian Manhunter is strong enough to draw blood from Kryptonians such as Superman and even Supergirl, just by punching them really hard. He once lifted up an entire building block and even claimed that he is just as powerful as Superman. Just because he's beat Superman a couple times doesn't mean they never work together. The Martian Manhunter has been shown pulling the Earth through space alongside Wonder Woman and Superman. He's also helped Superman lift up a mothership that was bigger than Earth itself, and it was moving towards them at about 36,000 miles per hour, which is very impressive. To top it all off, Martian Manhunter has even managed to land a punch on Superboy Prime, which is absolutely crazy. Piccolo has fought many great opponents but has never shown any crazy feats like Martian Manhunter when it comes to physical strength. The Martian Manhunter has fought way more enemies and accomplished more over his long history. Now if Piccolo was punching holes through planets like Goku, that would at least give us something to talk about, but he hasn't even done something at that level. Martian Manhunter just outclasses Piccolo when it comes to raw strength, so I gotta give him the checkmark here. Alright, next category is speed. Exactly how fast can these characters travel and how fast can these characters fight? Because for those of you who don't know, there is a clear difference between travel speed and fighting speed. Just because a character can travel at a certain speed doesn't mean they can fight at that speed also. Now once again, it is very difficult for me to figure out exactly how fast Piccolo is at the end of the series, and there are two reasons for that. Number one, Piccolo doesn't really show off his speed in any way near the end of the series, simply because he's not involved in any of the major fights. Number two is because the dude wears weighted clothing 90% of the time. Now don't get me wrong, that's freaking cool. But it makes it even more difficult for us to know how fast he would be if he wasn't wearing it, like just his natural speed alone. Now let's take a look at some of the characters showing us their speed throughout the series. Kid Goku when he first appeared was already fast enough to dodge bullets and lasers. Master Roshi was catching bullets and leaving multiple after images of himself. By the time Goku and Piccolo fought, they were literally invisible to godlike beings and easily faster than the speed of sound. By the time we got to Dragon Ball Z, we had characters like Raditz that made those previous feats look like a joke. This dude was speed blitzing both Goku and Piccolo without even trying. Then we had Nappa who called Raditz a weakling, and this guy couldn't even touch Goku. Even characters like Yamcha were moving so fast that you had to sense out the movement of their ki to keep track of them. By the time we got to the Frieza saga, characters like Goku were outrunning explosions while being paralyzed. They were dodging energy blasts at light speeds as if they were nothing. When Trunks first made his appearance, he wiped out all of Frieza's men in an instant. Androids 17 and 18 were able to dodge Trunks' energy blast at the very last second while carrying Android 16 in his capsule. Speaking of the androids, Piccolo was able to push Android 17 to his max, and they were still fighting blow for blow at extremely high speeds. Now, Piccolo isn't as fast as someone like Goku when it comes to travel speed, where he's flying instantly from one side of Namek to the other, or like Gotenks, who was able to fly around the Earth multiple times in just a few seconds. Piccolo has never been shown to have travel speed at that level in the anime or in the manga, so it's very difficult for me to say exactly how fast he would be able to travel. I think that Piccolo's travel speed is easily multiple times faster than the speed of sound, but I wouldn't put him at light speed. But when it comes to fighting speed and reaction time, Piccolo is easily multiple times faster than the speed of light. Like I was showing you earlier, this type of fighting speed was already hinted at early on in Dragon Ball, but in Dragon Ball Z, it's on a completely different level. Characters like Piccolo can easily fire energy beams and attacks that are shown blasting out of the planet almost instantly. So you can just see how fast and how far these things travel, and characters like Piccolo and the other Z fighters dodge these types of beams at close range in pretty much every fight, which is even crazier. Now earlier when I told you that Martian Manhunter was almost on Superman's level, I wasn't just talking about his strength. When it comes to speed, again, Martian Manhunter has done some pretty crazy stuff. He's been shown defusing twisters with his speed alone, speed blitzing a bunch of white Martians who were beating up Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, flying around the world in a few seconds. He's shown flying right next to Superman while they're in space moving faster than light. He's shown keeping up with a spaceship that was flying through space at about 8 times the speed of light. The Flash once lended Martian Manhunter a bit of a speed, so he was even able to keep up with him. The Joker, using a magic scepter, once made the Martian Manhunter and the Flash go absolutely insane and fight each other. In this fight, Martian Manhunter was able to fight blow for blow against the Flash. Fighting the Flash is already impressive. Fighting the Flash in a state like this is even more impressive. It just goes to show that Martian Manhunter's fighting speed and reaction time can reach that type of level when he's bloodlusted or completely loses control. He's even saved the Flash once after knocking out a character called Weather Wizard and handing him over to the cops. Wally West himself even said, "That was fast." If you can get compliments like that from the Flash, you know you're good. Again, just like the previous category, I have to give it to Martian Manhunter. Piccolo is a very fast character, but Martian Manhunter's speed is on another level. These are all things that Piccolo has never come close to showing in the entire series. Piccolo by all means is extremely fast, but Martian Manhunter is just much faster. So for speed, I gotta give it a Martian Manhunter. The next category we have is skills/techniques. What kind of powers and abilities do these characters bring to the table? Now when it comes to Dragon Ball Z characters, I think we can all agree that these guys have the best energy attacks and the best energy manipulation. It's literally second to none. Characters like Piccolo can raise or lower their ki whenever they want. This has been shown since the early Dragon Ball days. Just like any other Z fighter, Piccolo has many different types of energy attacks. Listing them all would take way too long, so I'll just tell you his most popular ones. Piccolo has his antenna beam, where he shoots a bolt of electricity and shocks his opponents. This was used in his fight against Goku. His eye lasers, which can be used to cripple opponents and nullify projectiles coming his way. His various types of energy waves, the most famous one being the explosive demon wave, which was passed on to him from King Piccolo. Masenko, another famous energy wave that he used throughout the series on characters like Frieza and Cell. Light Grenade, which is one of my favorite attacks. It's an extremely strong energy sphere that Piccolo uses during his battle with Cell. Full Power Shockwave, which is just a massive explosion that Piccolo creates. It's got a huge blast radius, which is more than enough to take out entire cities. Hellzone Grenade, which is a scatter shot type attack. Piccolo surrounds his enemies with multiple energy spheres and then rains them down on his enemies. Lastly, his most famous and signature attack, the Special Beam Cannon. This is Piccolo's strongest attack, and even early on in the first season of Dragon Ball Z, it was strong enough to go straight through not only Raditz, but Goku as well. As the series goes on and Piccolo gets stronger, all these techniques get powered up as well. Characters like Vegeta and Frieza when they first appeared were confirmed to be planet busters, and Piccolo has energy attacks that surpass even them in the Buu saga. So for me to say that Piccolo can't destroy planets would be a complete lie. Piccolo also has the ability to do Namekian Fusion. Namekian Fusion was used by Piccolo twice in the series, once on Namek with Nail, and then during the Android saga with Kami. This type of fusion allows Piccolo to absorb the energy, strength, memories, and also the intelligence of these characters. Since we're using Piccolo in the Buu saga, he already has the boost he needed from the Namekian Fusion. Much like the other Namekians, Piccolo has thick skin which shields him from extreme drops in temperature. He has superhuman hearing, which allows him to hear even the most faintest of noises. By expanding and contracting the cells in his body, Piccolo is able to stretch his limbs and even grow many times in size like he did in his battle with Goku. His powers and strength are increased while he's in this state. Piccolo can even use telepathy, as he's shown communicating with other characters using just his mind many times throughout the series. Now, this form of telepathy does not allow Piccolo to take control of people's mind or attack them mentally, as that was never shown in the series. It's simply only used for communication. During his training for the arrival of Vegeta and Nappa, Piccolo was shown to have telekinesis as he was lifting up gigantic pyramids into the air. Now, these pyramids are easily over 100,000 tons, so the fact that he was lifting that up with his mind is actually pretty damn incredible. Piccolo also has the ability to create multiple clones of himself that he can use to attack enemies with or to even train with, like it was shown in the anime. To top it all off, Piccolo is one of the most powerful and hardworking characters in the entire Dragon Ball series. He has spent his entire life training just like Goku, and has even managed to stay on top for a huge chunk of the series. He is one of the most intelligent characters in the series simply because he was born with King Piccolo's tactical genius and later on even gained Kami's great wisdom and knowledge. With all of this put together, Piccolo is easily one of the most dangerous non-Saiyan fighters in the entire Dragon Ball universe, and in terms of destructive capabilities through his energy attacks, I definitely think he's on another level compared to Martian Manhunter. With that being said, let's move on to the Martian. Now, Martian Manhunter, just like Piccolo, is also the most powerful of his race, simply because of the training he received on his own planet, and also the many years he's been active on Earth as a hero. We've already talked about his super strength and super speed, so we're not going to get into that again, but we will be talking about his other abilities, like his superhuman stamina. Martian Manhunter, like Piccolo, has incredible endurance and can fight extremely long battles. He can even travel long distances in space without food, air, or even taking a rest. Much like Superman's heat vision, he has something called Martian Vision, which is almost just as powerful. He's got this type of psionic blast, which he can shoot from his eyes or hands. These blasts are used to push objects or enemies out of his way. He has super hearing, his Martian breath, that he can use to freeze people or create hurricane force winds. He's got X-ray vision so he can see through objects. He can even become invisible to beings that can see the entire electromagnetic spectrum, like Superman. To keep it short, he can do everything Superman can, plus more. So let's just get to the things that make Martian Manhunter different. Martian Manhunter has the ability to shapeshift. He's able to control the molecular structure of his body's biopolymer and make it resemble absolutely anything he wants, whether that's clothing, weapons, and even other people. We've seen him expand his body to look menacing and tower over people. We've also seen him shrink down to the size of a blood vessel and enter someone's bloodstream. He once shapeshifted into the friggin' Hulk. The possibilities are endless for him. He could shapeshift into Shenron if he wanted to and scare the crap out of people. Martian Manhunter is hands down the most powerful telepath on Earth. When it comes to telepathy, he has done some of the craziest things ever. He is able to scan the minds of every living being on the Earth with no problem at all, and he's done it multiple times. He used his telepathy to target a vampire who existed in an energy form, and he forced her to get back into her deformed body. 9 white Martians with amplified telepathy, to the point where they could use it across light years, could not break through his mental shields. He used his telepathy to make Amanda Waller want to form the Justice League of America. He was able to mind rape Despero, who not only can solo the entire Justice League, but also had telepathy that was on Martian Manhunter's level. He has telepathically coaxed information out of Superman's Kryptonian rocket. He's shown planting a psychic tracer in Firestorm's mind to track his location anywhere on the planet. He was able to telepathically defeat Captain Atom. And this dude was time traveling, warping reality, controlling the Speed Force, and even making the Flash look like a joke. He has subconsciously kept the souls of the entire Martian race on Mars, making them unable to move into the afterlife. He has read the minds of characters like Superboy Prime. Not only has he read the minds of the entire Justice League, all the way from Mars, but he's also mind-wiped them all. He has entered the Spectre's mind, and forced him onto the astral plane. For those of you who don't know who the Spectre is basically the physical embodiment of God's vengeance on Earth. This dude is a cosmic level character, and Martian Manhunter has even managed to see his true face by performing a mental scan. He's also scanned the mind of Dr. Destiny. This guy is another character that can warp reality. He can literally pull people's nightmares out of their minds and bring them to life. I mean, the list goes on and on, people. Martian Manhunter has an extremely powerful mind. He even has telekinesis. He can literally move objects with his mind, which he calls molecular hypnosis. And he even has a genius level intellect, but again, why wouldn't he? I mean, he can literally read anyone's mind and learn whatever he wants to. Seriously, people, forget Piccolo. We have never seen these types of feats in Dragon Ball Z, period. I mean, King Kai can talk to people across the universe, but even he has never done the type of things that Martian Manhunter is capable of. These types of beings simply do not exist in the Dragon Ball universe. Now, going back to what I said earlier, when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, Piccolo is superior. He is a martial arts genius compared to Martian Manhunter. When it comes to destructive capabilities, Piccolo once again is superior. He has crazy energy attacks that can do crazy amounts of damage, but there is one thing that Martian Manhunter can do that can protect him from any of Piccolo's attacks, whether that's his key attacks or just normal punches and kicks. By lowering the density of his mass, Martian Manhunter can become intangible. He has used this many times to pass right through walls or any other structure in his path. It's also a very useful tool in battle. Remember when I said he was able to land a punch on Superboy Prime? Let's go back to that scan. As you can see, he was able to phase right through his heat vision and smack him in the face. He has defeated many opponents this way just by going right through them. He can phase through force fields that have tanked hits from Superman. As you can see, Martian Manhunter can do this to Piccolo with ease. If Piccolo does the special beam cannon, it will go right through Martian Manhunter like this. He has killed other Martians by phasing through them and attacking their hearts. He can phase his hand through people's head and shut off their brain. Piccolo can use key shields or whatever he wants, but at the end of the day, Martian Manhunter will go right through them casually, as if he's walking down the street. Like I said, Piccolo might be the better fighter and might have better energy attacks, but Martian Manhunter can shut down anything and everything Piccolo can throw at him. What good will those attacks do if you can't even hit your opponent, even when he's standing still? Martian Manhunter has been called the Swiss Army knife of superheroes for a reason. With all of these abilities combined, he was able to take on the entire Justice League by himself. Even Superman said that he's the most powerful being on the face of the earth. Martian Manhunter simply outclasses Piccolo when it comes to skills/techniques, and that's exactly why he gets another checkmark here. Okay, it's time we move on to the final category, durability. Exactly how much punishment can these guys take? Piccolo has taken hits from many strong characters throughout the series. He's been able to tank punches, kicks, elbows, energy attacks, and all sorts of crazy stuff throughout the series from characters like Nappa, Frieza, Android 17, and Cell. And he's come back from it most of the time. Same thing with Martian Manhunter. He's taken blows from Superman, General Zod, Superboy. Despero almost cut him in half and he didn't even react to it. It's as if he never even felt the pain. He's even been up close to the sun with Superman. If Piccolo got this close, he would get wiped out instantly. Now if you're a fan of both of these characters, right off the bat, you'll know that I have not talked about one special ability that both of these characters possess. And that ability is Regeneration. This was an ability that Piccolo showcased in the original Dragon Ball when he was fighting Goku. Piccolo's arm gets damaged, so he literally rips it off himself and regenerates a new one. The same thing happens in the Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z. Piccolo loses his arm once again when he gets hit by an energy blast from Raditz. Later on in the series, during his fight with Cell, Piccolo's arm gets drained, but Piccolo still manages to regenerate a new one after making Cell talk to him and giving him enough time to regenerate. In the Buu saga, after being turned to stone, Piccolo is accidentally knocked over by Trunks. He breaks into several different pieces, but still puts himself back together, and he states that as long as his head is intact, he is able to regenerate his body. That's very impressive, but is it as impressive as Martian Manhunter's regeneration? And the answer is, no it's not. As good as Piccolo's regeneration is, it's not even close to what Martian Manhunter can do. He has been shown regenerating from attacks that were able to disrupt his molecular stability. He has been shown regenerating from just a hand, and most importantly, he was able to regenerate his body after becoming nothing more than a few drops of slime. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Piccolo is extremely durable and his regeneration is great, but that hasn't stopped him from dying. Nappa has shown that it's very possible to kill him with a strong enough energy blast, and even Cell almost killed Piccolo. He broke his neck with a single punch and blasted him right through his stomach. Piccolo was literally unable to defend himself when this happened. Even if Piccolo somehow managed to blast Martian Manhunter's head off with a special beam cannon, he'd just come back from it. But if Martian Manhunter were to blast Piccolo's head off, that's pretty much it. Martian Manhunter is easily the more durable fighter, and that's exactly why he's going to get the final checkmark here as well. Now before I wrap up this video, I wanted to mention two things that I know for a fact will be brought up in the comment section. Martian Manhunter's weakness to fire. Yes, it's true, Martian Manhunter has a weakness to fire, but that weakness is entirely in his head. His entire race was brought down in flames, so that still haunts him even today. At the end of the day, fire doesn't really damage his body at all, even if he's being affected by it mentally. He might go down for a bit and battle it in his head, but he'll get right back up. He's been able to overcome that weakness multiple times before, so I don't see how that's a problem here. Secondly, I know some people are going to ask me about Furnace and why he wasn't mentioned in the video. The simple answer is that he wasn't needed. Martian Manhunter alone is overkill for Piccolo, so I didn't really see any point bringing in Furnace. But that's pretty much it, guys. A lot of people asked me to make this video, so here it is. I hope you all enjoyed that. I love Piccolo with all my heart, even more than Martian Manhunter, but that doesn't mean I'm going to make him win because I'm a huge fan. Martian Manhunter can do almost everything Piccolo can, plus more. That's just how it is. That's just how Martian Manhunter was made to be. Martian Manhunter is the winner of this versus match. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you didn't enjoy this video, then by all means give it a dislike. But at the end of the day, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.